Yeah, I mean, this was my 9th year in the classroom teaching, and I've been in the same school community for my entire teaching career. And this year, like, I would say the most change happened to me. Maybe my first year of teaching had a lot, but this is right up there with that. I learned to make boundaries for myself, which I think when you just say that, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. But I realized I actually have contracted hours that I'm paid to work, and I'm actually gonna not work outside of those as much anymore or at all. So I left work every day this year at 3:15, which I've never done pretty much any other year. And even just that for me was such a feat to do. And it really just changed my mental health and my outlook on what teaching should be and how teachers should take care of themselves. And I learned to say no to things, and it's I did that all because, it's not like I just decided to do that this year. Obviously it was a result of the craziness that we were going through, and I, for the first time basically in my life, was I think I have anxiety. I think I'm struggling with anxiety, and that was a lot for me to admit. So I was what steps can I take to take care of this? And so it was, once I kind of got into that routine and made those changes and did a lot of reflecting on what me as a teacher meant and being a teacher meant, it just really changed my entire perspective and outlook on everything about my career, honestly. So, to answer that question in short, yes, there's a lot of discoveries and just things that I really hope stick with me after this year, and I'm committed to. I also made the decision to leave the school community I've been in for 9 years, and I'm going to a new school next year. So yeah, just all around, so many things I could go into more about, but it's been revolutionary for sure. I think it was a combination of things that all just piled on top of each other. I think teaching during a pandemic where basically I was asked to be put on the front line when I wasn't vaccinated or felt safe. I think that right there just kind of made me have to really see, up front what my value was to society. And I had to reckon with that however I chose to. I think on top of that, I was in a really toxic work environment. The leadership at the school I was at was really, really unhealthy, and I didn't feel valued. And I really I started to second guess myself, and it's I'm a good teacher and I can say that and I know that. But I was I don't feel like that, and I'm not told that. And so all of that just kind of on top of each other, it was I started to struggle with sleeping. I noticed healthy habits that were breaking apart or whatever. And I was just I can't do this, actually. I will not be able to make it through this year. And actually it was the year before this school year, so the one that ended basically in March of 2020 when the pandemic started. I remember having a conversation with my principal, and she was how do you feel about this year? And this is when we ended virtual and everything, we were I don't know what's gonna happen, what's going on. And I remember telling her, I was it was hard, this year was awful. And she seemed shocked that I said that. She was oh, really? She's you always just put on this happy face, and you're always there, you always come to work. I would have never known that you were struggling or, had difficulty with that. And I was well, yeah, because that's what we do. We continue to show up and we do all this and that. And I remember telling her, I was honestly, I'm almost grateful for the time that we had, when we were sent home and buildings were closed in March of 2020. I was I'm actually kind of grateful for that in a way, because I truly don't know if I would have returned to that classroom the next year. And so I needed that little break almost to revitalize myself and to really spend time figuring out what I wanted. But yeah, she just had no clue. And it's that wasn't her fault, because it's not I'd given her any clue or wasn't presenting it in any way, but I was like, wow.
Was there a low point?
I don't know if there was a definite point or moment that I can like pinpoint. I am a perfectionist at heart in so many ways, and I think I'm decent at stopping myself before I can maybe get to like a super low point. But I mean, I think the sleeplessness was really what got me, and I was so worried about COVID. I was getting COVID tested twice a week, even though I wasn't going anywhere, just to like ease my own mind, because I was so nervous about having to go into work and all this and that. And I don't know if it was an exact moment, but I just kind of like one day was like, this isn't gonna, we're not gonna be able to keep doing this. So, so October of this last school year in 2020, I had someone reach out to me and my teaching partner, because I teach in a classroom there's 2 of us in the room and there's 50 kids. So it's like not a normal structure of a classroom, an elementary school classroom. And we don't do things super traditionally for our district. Like we don't use like the district mandated curriculum. We're very out of the ordinary, and it's because we've been granted like special permission to do things. And we're very like lucky to have been able to do that for so many years. But I think also people started to kind of hear about this like weird, quirky classroom that we had and be like, I'm curious, and they would reach out. And so in October, all that to say, a principal at another school actually reached out to us and was like, come like log on this Zoom, just like learn about our school. And she'd actually reached out to us before, and we'd had other people reach out to us before, and I'd always kind of just like, no, I'm happy where I am. Like, I love my school community. Like, I've been here for 8 years, 9 years. But for some reason in October when she emailed again, I was like, okay. So I like logged onto the Zoom, and instantly it was similar to kind of what you were describing, where it's like, oh, like not every place is the same. Like not every leader is the same. And so instantly I was just kind of like, why do I feel lighter? Like, why are my shoulders like not like hunched up? And like, I like noticed like a actual difference. And she like basically offered us a job on the spot. Like we didn't like do an interview or anything. She was just like, yep, you can have the job if you want. And that was October. So it's like, I still had this whole, she was like, next school year, like, so you still would finish out this year. And I was like, that's kind of a lot to like know this far in advance if that's a change I want to make. But I'm really big on like just, following your gut and doing whatever you feel in your heart is best. And I just felt really called to listen to that and to go that path. And so we both, my co-teacher and I, decided to make that jump. So we signed in October to go to a new school. And I think that like lifted me throughout the rest of this year, because it's like I knew if I made it through this year again, there was something at the end that was going to give me some light. And
so you have hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been like I was like, hopefully it'll sustain me and like actually be able to carry me throughout this year, and it has, and it really has. So I mean, I've never regretted that decision. Obviously, I'm really excited about the future, but it's also kind of crazy and wild and all the things, but yeah.
So the hope for a new opportunity is giving you new life.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's really good.
And I think too, just to like go a little further with that, is because I was like, wow, why do I instantly feel lighter? And I was like, I probably need to like deconstruct that and actually figure out why I do feel lighter. And I think it's because I realized at the current, place I was at and the current school I was at and everything like that, I was showing up, obviously, and doing my job and all that, but I was doing it with like just a piece of me, right? Like it wasn't like my whole self really showing up. And I think that's normal. Teachers, there's a view like teachers, they're like this all the time. And so it's like, no, you actually only see like a teeny little piece of me. And like, there's so much more to who I am as a human than just a teacher. Yeah. But people don't know that because I don't bring that part of me to work. Yeah. And I just remember like in this conversation with these new people at the new school, I was really like showing my full self to them and talking about things that actually had nothing to do with my teaching. Yeah. and they were interested in it, and they were, you know, and I was just kind of like, oh, like, do I get to just like show up and actually be me and not like have to like hide parts of myself? So I mean, yes, and I felt, you know, I felt like they understood, and they didn't want me to be this picture perfect image of a teacher. They wanted me to be Hannah, who, you know, is a teacher, but she's also all these other things. And I was like, that is what has been missing, I think, you know. And it's like, wow, that's a pretty wild idea, that for 8 years or 9 years I've only been being a piece of myself rather than my whole self at a place that I spend the majority of my, you know, hours in a week at.